Hello, I'm Richard Hooper and this is Sat TV Week. Now I'm pleased to be joined by Steve Good of Comtech EF Data. Steve, thanks for joining us. Now, with the influx of LEO constellations, how are Comtech addressing that?
There's a number of new constellations being launched, new satellites being launched, high throughput satellites being launched at all of the three different orbits, GEO, MEO, and LEO. The cost of space access is coming down. That's making the economics equation much more attractive. So we at Comtech are addressing that from teaming the ground equipment with these new constellations, with these new satellites at GEO, at MEO, and we're investigating where LEO takes place and where we would fit into that ecosystem. We're seeing some big drivers across all of our verticals here, and we're really putting a lot of focus on the satellite operators, understanding where they're going so we can understand where our platforms need to be.
Now, are these orbits complementary or competitive?
I think they're very complementary. I think that certain applications can work at GEO, certain applications need that latency of LEO, and there's interesting things being done at MEO as well to really focus on throughputs. Focus on throughputs in a hybrid system. Some folks are doing MEO with a backup of GEO. So you use MEO when it makes sense, you use GEO to overlap that. And LEO is really providing new latency numbers, new performance elements that's really growing the piece of growing the pie as opposed to getting a bigger piece of a smaller pie.
Now, there are new areas of technologies that people are focused. The Internet of Things is one thing.
Of course.
Everybody's seeing that as the next big thing. How do you view that?
The Internet of Things, big data is getting bigger. Things are moving from cloud computing, and we understand the cloud. What Internet of Things does is moves us into the mist and into the fog. The fog is between the cloud and the mist. The mist is the real-time electrical pulses that are happening between these sensors. Satellite's always been good at the cloud computing, the backhaul of it. Now what we're finding out is we can get into that mist area as well. Smart cities, smart grids, mining installations, where a lot of sensors are sending a lot of data back, and that data needs to be mined, if you will, back at headquarters. So what we're doing at Comtech EF Data is really understanding that space, designing our products to leverage that big data becoming bigger.
Now, the Internet of Things, whilst a wonderful thing, brings with it inherent problems like security. How fundamental is that to what you're working on?
Security is key. So whenever you have billions of devices talking to each other, whenever you access one device, you could get into the core and get into basically the key information. So what we're focused on is really making a cyber safe platform that checks and balances and makes sure that only those that are authorized to access the data can do that. So we're putting a lot of focus on many of our different verticals, and there's different layers of security based on whether it's a military application, whether it's oil and gas, mining, banks. Very important that banking information remain solid. So we're putting a lot of focus onto our cyber.
So walking around this show and talking to people, some people are saying the market is going through a period of instability. How do you view it?
Instability is good. We need instability to push us forward. And the folks that are launching new satellites, new constellations, we continue to innovate. Shared networks, economics are changing. So it's a good thing. This is an exciting time. A lot of new constellations coming on, a lot of new supply coming on. And what we are really focused on is building that ground equipment that can unleash the potential of these satellites. So I think turmoil is good, and we're all in this to team the right ground with the satellites.
Now, one final question, because it's been talked about for years, the problem of interference.
Yeah.
So we're bringing on all these new constellations. You're tackling interference within the company. Can you explain a little bit more about it?
Interference is key. So as a service provider, you want to have the most robust service possible. And with more constellations, with tighter packing of carriers, there is more interference, whether it be co-channel, adjacent channel. So we're really focused on initiatives such as carrier ID, making sure that we can pinpoint exactly where that interference is happening, because service levels need to remain at a certain point to make sure that satellite remains viable. So carrier ID making our system with the tighter roll-offs, being able to operate with other platforms. It's very important that we tackle interference as a company, and more importantly, as an industry.
And do you see in the future any more collaborations with other companies?
I do. With more platforms going up, I see more collaboration, leveraging or embracing the carrier ID initiative. The satellite operators are pushing it. They'll continue to push it, and we'll continue to innovate. But I think this entire industry requires more collaboration.
Steve, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.